How do you defend yourself when you've been hurt? Hi, welcome to Mobilize Hope. Let's talk about it. If you remember from a couple of videos ago, we spoke about coping and resilience and how coping habits can be good and some of them can be not so healthy and hinder the healing process. So, defense mechanisms are some of the ways in which we subconsciously cope and we don't realize that we're using them. And if you remember, I also spoke about how coping can turn performative. It can become something that you're pretending to do well just so that you appear okay or you appear to be handling whatever situation you're going through. Defense mechanisms contribute a lot to that type of performative coping. And because we unconsciously do them almost all the time, we don't realize that we are hindering the processes of our coping, processing emotions, and eventually our healing. And why is that, you may be wondering? Well, it's because defense mechanisms are a way of us protecting ourselves. It does feel safe to use these defense mechanisms when we're facing situations that are uncomfortable or painful or that we just don't know what to do with in the moment. So, the difference between more healthy ways of coping and being in a constant state of using defense mechanisms is that with more healthy coping, you regulate your emotions better, meaning you're able to deal with whatever the problem is. Whereas if you're in a constant state of using defense mechanisms, it becomes more than just a way for you to cope. It actually becomes a way for you to avoid dealing with issues. So, for example, if you're like me and you do like to use humor as a way to cope, as a defense mechanism, then it can be good in the sense that it helps you have a chance to deal with how you're feeling first before you take action. It helps sway your mind away from the catastrophe of things for a little while. And then you can go back to deal with it when you're in an emotionally more regulated state. But if you're constantly using humor to deal with situations or issues that you face, that's not going to be a healthy way for you to deal with the problems that you have or whatever challenges that you're facing mentally or emotionally. It actually then becomes a way for you to minimize problems, not just for yourself, but for other people who may be involved in the situation. Defense mechanisms also teach us a great deal about learning how to identify what triggers us. Because if we know what triggers us in a moment, in an argument, in certain situations, we can better identify what defense mechanism we're using, in what way we're using them, and how we can use them better. Because it's very hard to try and think, let me not project anymore for the rest of my life, because it's a bad defense mechanism. Whereas you could put a positive spin on it. So, using projection as an example of putting a positive spin on a defense mechanism, you could, instead of learning how not to project, learn how to project better by using an objective friend as a sounding board. If you're having a problem with someone and you can't decide whether or not how you're feeling is reasonable or how you want to put that information across to the person you're having a problem with is a good way to do it, you could get a third party who's objective to hear your side of things and for you to actively project your feelings onto them and listen to yourself while you're doing that, as well as having them really listen to what you're saying and then giving you feedback. I hope you can kind of understand what I'm saying there because I know it can sound like jibber jabber sometimes, but that is a positive spin on a defense mechanism that could potentially work for you if you are someone who projects a lot. So, which defense mechanism do you think you use a lot and why do you think you use it? Anyway, I hope that you have learned something from this video. Whether you're just watching, whether you have a question or a comment, please drop it in the comment section. Or you can DM me. I'm always here to answer your questions about mental health or psychology or life in general if you're having a hard time. Let's continue to talk about mental health and psychology, and let's have hope.